All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for being on the call today, and we hope that we, in the next hour, give you guys a great roadmap as we go to the end of the school year with lots of surplus funding and some strategies to secure some of it. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Jen Olson, and I'm the president and co-founder of Interactive Health Technologies. And also on the call is Mario Reyna and Eric Larson. I'll let Mario introduce himself as well.
Hello everyone, Mario Reyna from McAllen ISD, and those of you that don't know that, that is in South Texas, about 4 hours south of San Antonio. I serve as the coordinator for health and physical education in McAllen ISD.
And you're a rock star as well. And Eric Larson.
My name is Eric Larson. I am the regional vice president for IHT, and I used to be a teacher in Denver Public Schools, a physical education coordinator in the schools, and a physical activity and physical education advisor for the Alliance for a Healthier Generation.
And we thank all of you from around the country that are joining today. Okay, perfect. Well, I just want to thank you guys all for being a part of this. We've got teachers and administrators from across the country, and we'll get started on what we're going to really accomplish over the next 60 minutes. One of the big things we want to do is provide you guys really specific details on the available funding sources and end-of-year opportunities. The first thing we're really going to focus on is ESSA Title IV Part A. We're going to explain what ESSA is, what the Title IV funding is. The annual state-by-state funding allocation, will show you that, and then Mario is going to go into how he really secured his funding and some key steps to his strategy. We're next going to go into other areas of funding. There's technology funds, there's social-emotional, there's lots of other funds out there within your district, as well as some community funds. Eric's going to talk about how he secured funds in Denver Public Schools, and then also working with IHT to help our customers across the country make their roadmap. Right now is the perfect time to request that funding, and we're going to talk about the language. We're going to give you guys a lot of resources about how to go through that, and then just how to know your timeline and how to give you some education and how to stay informed after this webinar is over. So we'll go ahead and get started with our first line of action. The main thing we want to ask, though, is if you guys can ask questions. If you have a question at any time, up in the left-hand screen, there's a Q&A button. Please post a question, and we've got a few spots in between after we get through each section. Ask us questions throughout so we can answer them, and we can make sure that you get everything answered by the time we're finished. So a little bit quickly about what IHT's purpose is. My name, again, is Jen Olson, and I founded the company in 2011 along with my business partner, Ben Benson, who's the CEO of Interactive Health Technologies. And our goal really was to empower ownership of health and well-being through daily, personalized, heart-centered learning and support. And that was mainly done through heart rate technology to really level the playing field, provide a way for kids to put a focus on effort rather than athleticism, and invite every child to the table to participate and be part of it. We also wanted to really provide the resources and the tools for teachers so that you guys can do your best when it matters most. And so providing you those resources and support, which is what this webinar is all about. Technology has taken education into an entirely new era. You guys all feel this in your districts. And we just know that education is demanding learning. It's connected. We need data for that. It's more efficient. We need instant access to information. And what technology does is it provides a better student-teacher-parent interaction. And that's really what IHT is trying to do. We're trying to create a future for education through that personalized ownership of everyone's health and well-being, really building a personal wellness portfolio from kindergarten through 12th grade. What do we do? So a lot of people think of IHT as wearable technology, as heart rate technology, but we actually are a company made up of many more things. Our assessment software, we're a competitive software, Fitnessgram or fitness assessment, or the President's Youth Fitness Challenge. We have curriculum resources that are available and also student journaling, and then our professional development to help you optimize the technology, learn how to not only use the data, but drive your programs forward through data. The ways that schools are using IHT technology, when we started the company, we really put our focus on how do we really improve and strengthen physical education classes, which is really where the heart of our program and our company lies. But schools and districts have shown us how they can use this technology in many more ways. And so what our company's transformed to, it's not how you use the technology, it's the difference that it makes in your unique situation. What that does is it opens up a lot of other funding opportunities for you, and it brings the entire whole child, whole school, whole community together. So virtual programs, if any of you are out there that have online physical education, waiver programs, here in Texas we call it off-campus PE, independent study, blended learning programs, schools are now starting to use us in all-day tracking. So for mental health, which is a really big issue, certainly here where we're based in Austin at the Capitol, our legislators across the street right now passing about 4 or 5 mental health bills for K through 12 education. So behavioral management, and that can also be with special needs, adaptive PE, recess, and then using the monitors movement in the classroom. How do we really connect the brain research that we all know is out there, that the healthier we are, the better learners we become, and the more prepared we are in the academic classroom. And then using the assessment software in other subjects as well. IHT is not specifically just for physical education. We have school districts now where the music, the art teachers, social studies, other subjects are using our technology. The counselors, the well-around teachers in the schools are using the software to help that student from the time they come to school to the time they leave. So that's a little bit about what IHT does. Now I'm going to go into, I'm going to pass over to Eric about what ESSA is and Title IV Part A funding.
Thanks, Jen. Yes, the ESSA Title IV funding, Part A, whether you're a teacher, you're a physical education coordinator, you're an administrator, that you stay up on what's happening with Title IV Part A. Really, that is a block grant that took the place of PEP grants. But when it took the place of PEP grants, it also includes a lot of other content areas. So you see here, first of all, that it has been authorized at a $1.3 billion amount for the fiscal year of 2019-2020. So that money is available, and it's federal money that is then passed on down to the state level. And there's really 3 buckets. The first bucket is well-rounded education, educating the whole child. Now there's 17 different subject areas that are included. Health and physical education are included as part of the 17. And then there is supporting safe and healthy students. And that includes mental health, trauma prevention, drug and violence prevention, or training on trauma rather, and health and education is also included in that area. And then there's the third bucket, which is effective use of technology. And it can be professional development in technology, it can be blended learning, it can be IHT, heart rate monitors. So there's 3 different buckets that districts can spend their Title IV Part A ESSA money for. And now schools that apply for this money and receive it, they do have to do a needs assessment if they are awarded more than $30,000. And so it breaks down there on the slide the different areas that the ESSA money can be awarded to, and if it's a certain percentage, then they have to fill out a needs assessment.
Okay, thanks, Eric. And
there's a couple changes. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm just talking about the cycle. Go ahead. Oh, well, I was just basically
I just wanted to
pass the House yesterday passed they increased the funding by $11 billion from last year, and so this is how it's going to really impact education programs and services. You can see on the right-hand side where the Title IV Part A is. They increased it to $1.3 billion. Last year it was $1.1. So the funding keeps going up because, again, technology, well-rounded, you know, you can kind of see here they even got in here well-rounded in mental health services in school. So the push to really wrap around students in all areas of their life, interlinking physical, mental, and emotional is a really, really big focus, which again makes it prime to help transform your opportunities within physical education in your school. So real quickly, I'm just going to kind of show you how this is allocated. And so if you look at the map here, we are going to send you, after we're done, an 8-page ESSA roadmap guide, an e-book, and it's going to have this map in it, and you're going to be able to read it a lot better than you do on the screen here. But the colors really signify how that money is allocated. Most of the states, as you see, are blue. And what that does in the blue states is divides the total revenue equally. It's about $20 per student. So if you can calculate, if you know how many kids are in your district or in your school, times that number times $20, and that's about the estimate of what type of ESSA funding. If you're in one of these states, that's the kind of money you're getting. So in Texas, it's $100 million over the course of the year. Every state gets a portion of that. And then in Mario's district, for example, Mario, how many students do you have in your district?
We have about 23,500 students. And
that allocated to.
I could not hear you. Can you say that again?
Go ahead, Mario. Go ahead and finish.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that if we go to the next slide, you can see the individual breakdown. And the key here is that there is a ton of money. And when I travel throughout the country and I'm speaking to other leaders, a lot of them are not tapping into this money. Now, the schools could be getting their money because they're not going to leave any money on the table. But unfortunately, I have seen over and over countless stories that there's like, they're just not taking advantage for, as Eric spoke to earlier about the well-rounded education, the safe and healthy students, and the use of technology. And that's just unfortunate. And I think what you're doing here, Jen and Eric, is real good, trying to educate others, because it is about knowing that the money is there. But here's one thing I tell everyone, guys. Just because the money is there, it doesn't mean you're automatically going to get it. If you don't get yourself educated about what is ESSA all about, and you don't go for the money, then you're not going to get nothing. And that means that somebody else in your district will be getting the money. What I like to tell everyone is to think about ESSA funding as kind of like there's a grant with a lot of money in your school district, and everybody is going to go out and try to get it. Okay, so that's the big deal. And what I've noticed is that I thank the fact that through Shape America and through IHT, I got educated about ESSA funding. And once I got educated and I knew that I had that opportunity myself to go get some of that money, and I went to a key stakeholder in our district, and every district is different. So once I went to the one that was handling our money, then I had to sit with that person and ask for the money. Once that person, here's a big key, once that person knew that I knew what I was talking about, that I also deserved some of this money, then that person was willing to listen. Because at the end of the day, I will tell you this personal opinion, 80 to 90% of all these funds will go back to academics if it is allowed, okay? It will go back to maybe some technology there or other innovative projects like robotics and chess and things like that. But that's if we allow it. So I always say that that person that doesn't speak out for your programs, then it's not going to get anywhere. So the request, you have to be ready, as it says there on the bullet. You got to just not show up and say, hey, what do I get? So then the big deal is that after you get the money, you better use that money and implement and do what you said you were going to do for it. Because then the person that kind of gave us the money, then now she's asking me, show me how it impacted the total development of the child. So that's where I have to come back and show the evidence. And if I do that, then that means that that person, I make her life easy, okay? It's a she. Because then that person will say, well, if there's more money for next year, she's going to say, I got to give it to the physical education department or to someone like me because I'm following the rules, okay? So it also goes back to the data and reporting and to prove. And I can tell you this, we are a district that has purchased IHT. So I know that the data we're going to get from that, especially about improving our performances and just improving the total overall well-rounded child, then it's going to be hard for that person to say, no, Mario, McAllen ISD, in McAllen ISD, I can't give you more money because you're not showing the goods. The return on investment is what they call. So we can go to the next slide. This slide is real simple, like I already said, is that you have to educate yourself. And it's not very difficult to educate yourself. There's a lot of information out there. We're in our third year. The first year what helped me was, and that's already over, is the fact that a lot of people didn't know what was ESSA. So once I got myself educated, it was a +1. Then last year, continue to get myself educated and know the ins and outs of it, because that is a big key to being an advocate for your profession, health and physical education or recreation. And those are the big things that have helped me when I've been going out there, because let's face it, the competition of the money is pretty tight within any school district. So I like that slide that tells you educate yourself, and then the second part of it, understand your district system in place on how this ESSA funding is going to be distributed. Because I can tell you this, folks, every district is very different. I talked to a lot of other coordinators, and certain people have different stakeholders that are in charge of the money. So you just have to study your own system in your own district, and then just go out there and get yourself in there, okay? And it can happen, it can happen. You've seen some slides right there with McAllen ISD about the strategic plan. You got to go in there and know what the strategic plan is in your own district. So the more you educate yourself about ESSA, the easier it will get for you. And I'll tell you this, as we move on to another slide, I can tell you this, by coincidence, today I was at an administrators meeting where we have the entire district's administration, and I bumped into probably one of my best friends, guys, okay, and you know why, right? Because she's providing money where I need and where my children in my school district need. So I bump into her, and she comes to me, and she says, hey, I might have a couple of dollars left from ESSA funding for this year. You just be ready. And she says, do you have a proposal in case I send you? Yes, of course I have a proposal. I am ready for her if she says, hey, Mario, I have $20,000. What can you do what can you do? Bang. Within 5 minutes after I get that email, I'm going to send it to her, because I don't want her, and maybe she is sending the same response to other people, the same question. So no, I want to take that money when given the opportunity. So like that slide there says, don't wait until the last minute to go ask. And I can almost tell you this, unless you have a guardian angel in your school district, if you do not go and ask, you're not going to get the money. It's going to go somewhere else.
Does anybody have any questions? Let's take a break right here, and if you have a question for Mario, go ahead and bring that question up or put it in the chat box. We'll give you a few seconds here, and otherwise we'll move on. And reminder, if you do have questions as we're going through the slides, then just put them in the question and answer section on the left-hand side of the screen. Just click on that area. Mario, I really appreciate you sharing that information coming from a district administrator, from a physical education and health coordinator, I should say. That was my role in Denver Public Schools, was the physical education coordinator for 13 years. And exactly what Mario is talking about is correct. You need to reach out and develop those relationships within the district. You need to find out who your IT person is, who's in charge of technology. So a little story behind that in Denver Public Schools is we were looking for funding for our fitness centers for heart rate monitors. And so we wrote a PEP grant, and we included heart rate monitors in our PEP grant. So through the PEP grant, we were awarded the PEP grant, and through the PEP grants, we were able to develop a relationship with the technology director in Denver Public Schools. And through that relationship, in other years when we didn't have PEP grants, I was able to go to the technology director in DPS and ask if they have any money left, especially in April and May, because that's the time they're making the final decisions about spending down their budget, and they sometimes have money left over. They bought all the Chromebooks. They've done all the infrastructure for technology in the district, and they have funds. And so we developed that relationship, and many times that director would come to me, just like Mario mentioned, toward the end of the fiscal year, which is up in most districts on June 30th, and he would say, I have some money left over, and I know that we've worked together in the past. Do you have some needs in the area of technology in physical education? And of course, heart rate monitors fits right into that project for him. He can go to his supervisor and say, okay, this is what we funded this year, and we included heart rate monitors for physical education. Also, know who your director of curriculum is. Now, most times, that's an easy one. If you're a teacher, you know who the curriculum director is. If it's a larger district, it might be the physical education coordinator. But make sure that you have those discussions also with any of the directors in curriculum. Wellness department is an important one. We are able to, in Denver, through the wellness coordinator, she came to us and she said, you know, there's a grant out there. It's the Health Diversity Grant. And it's offered by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. And I think you should apply for it for physical education in Denver Public Schools. And so when I researched it, there was not, in the past, there wasn't a physical education program that received this funding. But when I looked up at the write-up, it talked about obesity risk factor reduction. And so I said, we fit. We can show that by increasing moderate to vigorous physical activity in physical education, that we can help with that risk factor. And so we applied. First time physical education department had ever applied in the state of Colorado. We applied, and we ended up being funded for $750,000 over a 3-year period. So when you develop those relationships, I had that relationship with the coordinator of the wellness department, and she came to us and said, this might be a good idea. And remember, that's where the wellness department, they take care of the wellness policy for the district. So they're always looking for ways to connect with other areas that affect the wellness policy. And one of the things in Denver we were able to add into the wellness policy is that the students in physical education would be moderate to vigorously active 50% of the time. So we were able to add that into Denver Public Schools' wellness policy. So those are just some ideas of how you can reach out, develop those relationships, and even have those coordinators come to you or those directors come to you when they have money available at the end of the year. Medicare funding in Denver, we were able to partnership with the OT department and the PT department and apply for Medicare funding in physical education for adapted physical education. And then we were able to use heart rate monitors for our adapted physical education students to monitor their heart rate zones during activity. So those are some ways that you can collaborate with the other departments in the district. I'm going to talk a little more about the mental health part of it and SEL on the next slide. So kind of to review what Jen was talking about earlier, go ahead, you can go to the next slide, that's fine, Jen. To review just some areas that Jen was talking about earlier, up in Fort Collins, Lisa McVicker, our physical education teacher at Fossil Ridge High School, she is using the IHT heart rate monitors for their online physical education class, because the students can get on their app and pull up IHT and start their heart rate monitor, do their workout. The teacher receives the data, and then the student receives the data in their email. And so that's part of blended learning that we have schools doing blended learning, summer program, where they only meet with the teachers once a week, and they can use the app and the IHT zone heart rate monitor. Behavior management. In Littleton, Colorado, we have an elementary school, East Elementary School. Kim Bailey is a social worker there, and she is having the students wear the heart rate monitors all day, 9 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so it's tracking what those students are doing. If they're getting a spike in their heart rates, then Kim can go and look at the data and find out what's going on with that student. We had one student that was doing really good in the morning, got into the moderate zone during physical education time, into the moderate zone during recess, but then in the afternoon, just sitting in the classroom, that student's heart rate started to spike 138, 140, in that range. Well, because that student had a heart rate monitor on, they collected the data and talked to the student, and what was happening is that student was anxious in the afternoon because there was an abusive situation at home. So he was anxious and didn't want to go home after the school day. So that's where we're using the heart rate monitors for behavior management. Special needs, adapted PE, Tony Bader in Seattle is doing a great job with this, with the IHT heart rate monitors, with their students to find out their target heart rates for her adapted students. Recess, we have a teacher, Connie Dunn, in Sugar, Salem, Idaho, using the heart rate monitors to track the students during recess. And they did a month-long tracking to come up with data to see how active the students were at recess. Again, at Littleton, at East Elementary, they're also able to, since the students are wearing the heart rate monitors all day, they're able to monitor how much time or how many brain breaks or brain energizers the students are involved with during classroom time. And so that's right there on the graph, that's right there on the chart to see if the teachers are actually giving the students some energizing breaks during classroom time. I'm going to turn it back over to Jen. She's going to talk about some other subject areas, and especially in SEL, that we're using the heart rate monitor.
Okay, thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. And do we have any questions that have popped up that we can answer after Mario and Eric's session? Okay, great. Well, we'll go on, and again, if you have questions, please use that Q&A up in the left-hand corner. I'm going to really jump into how can IHT help. And so this is not going to be an overview. It's going to be kind of some specific steps. What's going to happen afterwards is going to be the follow-through. And so we're going to send you guys this PowerPoint at the end, and then we can really work with you to customize your app for you. So you kind of see steps, and Mario's talked about and Eric has talked about how they've gone through their strategy, the success, the preparation that they've had, because it does take both planning and collaboration to get this, and obviously the data as well. So the prep part is where we're going to focus on right now. The first thing you guys are going to get is an 8-page ESSA ebook. Now we put this together, and it's got the map in it that has all of the amounts of money for funding. It tells you also how your funding is allocated in your state. It's got a great article on the amazing Mario Reyna and how he secured his funding. Sandy Cravens is in there as well. She's an Irving ISD. And I think the key, what Mario really mentioned, is being prepared, but you got to have the courage to do it. It's always that first step in saying, you know what, I can do that. And that's where IHT is going to be with you every step of the way. Funding ideas and a 2-page template is another way that we're going to really help you guys. So this is a 2-page template, and we will even put your school's logo on it. So it's basically a Word document that you're going to get that's going to have, the first page is going to be the what, why, who you're impacting, the key features. We're going to put in the budget once you guys get a quote. And if you don't have a quote from us, let us know. We can shoot that over just so we can see what this investment is going to look at. Because you have to know what the cost is going to be before that. The logistics, and then what we're going to do as far as the solution to prove it is the last part of that second page. And this is going to be, we can customize this, and we can actually put your school in there or just send it to you and you can make it your own. So another resources that we're going to provide. I would really say, if you guys are really serious about this, is to build your network. And there's a lot of opportunities out there. Twitter has some fantastic communities that are talking about this, success stories. We have a channel on Facebook called Phys Chatter. It's a closed group. It's run by our IHT staff and supporters. Bob Knight is our administrator. He's a former elementary teacher and does a great job of really connecting our network. So whether you're a customer, you're a potential customer, you're just thinking about it, I want to talk to somebody who's actually used this. I want to hear their opinion. This is a great place to kind of come on and share how the technology is impacting and to learn from each other. But it's not the only thing. It's just what we've done is with our little brick to help build the wall together. So signing up for blogs, this is a great blog we did on Mario back in November, and it talks about his funding. This is also going to be in your ebook, but going to IHTUSA.com, you can get onto our newsletter, and Jay Plotkin, who's on the call as well, kind of running the back end of things, making the slides work perfectly. He does a great story, and we really, really highlight our teachers. So we went through our marketing call today, and like, who are we really, really going to shine the light on? And we try and get that out so that you can learn and be inspired by individuals just like Mario is in this article here. We really encourage you to not only join your state association and Shape America, but to follow them. So check out, they do an incredible job. And this funding, we have to say thank you to Congress, obviously, for putting this funding in, and the current administration for continuing to increase this funding. But we also have to thank Shape America, because Shape really did an incredible job advocating for this, the Speak Out Days. This is a great place to go from a national standpoint to really understand. They've got great resources. They have a template as well. So make sure you check out shapeamerica.org and their advocacy page to learn more after this call. And then get out to your state's Department of Education mailing list for grants. This came into my inbox yesterday. It's from the Texas Education Agency, April 30th, and they say on June 3rd, they're going to be releasing the following grant applications, and they're going to be doing Title I, they're going to be doing special education. So get them to your state department. Most of the commissioners around the state do a weekly recap of what they're focused on. And just like you're aligning to your district, learn where the state is going. What is the legislator passing as far as funding, as far as bills, and then how can you help not change your program, but transform your program to be the driver, to be the centerpiece for those aspects, so that you become part of your district wellness policy.
Hey, Jen?
And sign up for weekly updates. Yes, go ahead, Mario.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that, you know, right there by you sharing that information, I'm in Texas and I hadn't seen that, but that tells you that it's a constant study of what's always going on. And by getting involved, like myself getting involved in this webinar, it's already helping me, because now I know that June 3rd, I'm probably going to send a little hello friendly card to my main stakeholder in our district, and I'm going to say, hey, I understand that today, blah, blah, blah. And she's going to laugh. She's going to say, oh, my God, you're the only one doing this. But that's just a strategy, constant strategy, and the more you do, the more they'll take care of you.
Mario,
absolutely, yes. And
Mario, we had a question that I wanted to came up in the chat box, and I wanted you to answer this question. Does getting ESSA funds entail a bunch of paperwork?
Oh, you know, that's a great question, because many times when we're used to writing grants, now the PEP grant, beautiful grant, but boy, that was a lot of paperwork. On this one, you do have to do some paperwork, but it's very minimal paperwork that you have to do. And usually the person that's in charge of this ESSA funding, they'll provide you with the documents that they'll ask you, because they're required themselves to have those documents on file. So they pretty much send me my documents, and then there's so many resources out there of people that are willing to help you to, and I know IHT would do that for anyone. Okay, so yeah, I think that was a great question. The paperwork is not that difficult, especially if you end up getting some of the kind of money that I got. I mean, I was saying like, wow, it was very much worth the time that I put in there. And it's all about just making sure that you follow the rules of the question. So no, it does not take a lot of paperwork at all. That's a good question. Thank you for bringing it up, Eric.
Thanks for your answer on that, Mario. And I did want to also mention that in your district, find out who handles the ESSA funds. I know Mario talked about this a little bit, but a lot of districts, it used to just be somebody with the title grant coordinator. Now that title has changed because of ESSA, and their title now is grant and ESSA coordinator. So find out who has that title in your district so that you can find out who to talk to about ESSA funds.
And if I may, Jen, I just want to tell you this, that there's been at least on 3 occasions, just 3 occasions, some of this information that's been shared right now with everyone, I shared with 3 other districts, and they had no clue, and that's okay. And you know, within a week, all those 3 districts scored some money. So the goal of everybody that's listening, I would have to say that today, by coincidence, it's National Physical Education and Sports Week. The goal for everybody listening is that this week during National Sports National Physical Education and Sports Week, that your goal is to get it going. Go out there and give it the best that you can to celebrate this week by going and trying to get some money. If it's still there, you would be doing that person in charge a favor by you asking for that money, because that's what happened to at least 3 districts I talked to that had no clue. And once they started the conversation going, it was like they were calling back, like, what do we do now? What do we do here? And they got the funding. So sometimes what I'm trying to relate to everyone is that I don't know if there's enough education, even though it's available, about ESSA funding. It's there for the taking. Go out and get it.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate that, because it's true, and it is baby steps. I wanted to share one more story with one of our other Texas districts, Sandy Cravens. She had been unsuccessful, and I think in physical education, she's an administrator like Mario in Irving, which is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And she said, I just don't deserve this funding. It's for somebody else. And so she didn't even really try for it. Somebody came to her and said, Sandy, you really should go for this. We helped her prepare the documents. She took in literally that 2-page funding document that you're going to get. That is basically her thing that she took into her federal grant director and gave him the 2-page document, explained it to him, and literally she said she walked out of there in 3 minutes, and he said, this is exactly what ESSA is for. It's whole child, it's technology, and you've got the data to prove it, it's measurable, and everybody can do it. It provides equity. So we have a great product. There are a lot of great products out there, but we really fit this funding source like a glove. And again, that was a 3-minute meeting. Now, she had so much data. She implemented in March of last year. The school was over, so she had until May 1st. So she had about 5 weeks of data that she had collected. She gave that to her federal grant director in mid-May. And on July 1st, the funding replenishes. So it doesn't go away. It's not just a one-time thing. Texas gets $100 million this year. July 1st, that $100 million gets put right in the bank. So on July 1st, her federal grant director called her and said, Sandy, I have never seen data like this. Nobody's ever been able to get me data this fast and this measurable. Would you like this year's ESSA funding? And she, in seconds got $35,000 more for her district. And she'll probably get it from now on if she can continue to prove her program. So, it just takes the courage to take that first step. Other areas of the weekly updates to understandingessa.org. I really encourage you to sign up for this and kind of understand what's going on in your state. And then research tools that are beyond ESSA. Don't just put all your eggs in one basket. There are tools like School Specialty has a great grant finder tool. And you can put in your state and the type of funding you're looking for, such as physical education or health. And it'll pull up all of the grants, your community foundations, your health, your hospital. It'll pull up all those grants. And there might be a $5,000 grant with your local health department or the local grocery store. So look at the School Specialty site and keep an eye on that and search for grants in parallel. Once you have the documents prepared, it's really easy just to copy and paste them into other applications. And then follow ESSA updates on Twitter. And when I get done with this slide, I will go ahead and have Eric and Mario comment on it. But here are just a couple Twitter handles you might want to just start following. ESSA updates. Education Week does a great job. It's all education, Shape America. You should have that as one of your top following. And of course, IHT Spirit with our blogs and everything that we put out. And the 2 hashtags, ESSA and Title IV funding. And I'll turn it over to Eric and Mario to have comments on all of this.
Mario, do you have anything to add?
Go ahead, Eric. No, I'm glad that you guys are talking about ESSA on Twitter or any social media, because the advocacy part is how we get this funding, and that's probably another webinar. I mean, the advocacy part of not only trying to secure the funds is so important, and that's why like Shape America and other groups are always out there lobbying so that we can get that money. And the other thing I know that one thing that helped Shape America, because they're there doing a lot of the homework for me especially, and when I was able to go into their website and find out how much money was coming towards my school district, and I go talk to the stakeholders, say, hey, how you doing? I understand we have this amount. She looked at me. This is true. She looked at me and she said, Mario, I don't even know that this is what we're getting. And that's so true, because in Texas, I got that information from SHAPE before TA in Texas sent it out. So that's very important. But the advocacy part and the constant showing the appreciation of why we need ESSA funding so that we can play that vital role about, that buzzword about the total development of the child. And sometimes I get in trouble because sometimes school districts, because they're not evaluated sometimes on the total development of the child. It's more about the academic, mental side. Then school districts have a tendency to funnel a lot of funds towards that, okay? And of course, special education, which rightfully so, they should get a lot of funding. So I can understand that. But at the end of the day, don't feel sorry for yourselves that you think people are going to come and give you money. You've got to go out there and get that money. You got to be aggressive. All they can tell you, and like they told me the first time in the PEP grant, Eric, I don't know if you experienced this, because I know you also got a couple of PEP grants, but the first time I went out to get the PEP grant, they told me no, and they sent me back the where they felt like I could improve the grant. So we did, and we sent it back, and then the second year we got 1.9 million. So it's kind of like, it's okay they tell you no. The thing is to be aggressive and say, hey, you deserve that money, and more importantly, you deserve that money because it's your kids that deserve that money, because it's not only always about the academic side, it's also about the emotional and social development, and in addition to, of course, trying to have healthy kids.
No, I agree with you, Mario. We applied, the first time we applied for a PEP grant, we did receive the PEP grant. It was 1 year for our middle school program, and so we thought we were great. Well, we had tried 3 years in a row for funding for our elementary schools, and were turned down. And so then we tried it again, and finally got the funding. We learned a lot from their, feedback, and then when we tripled, we were able to get another PEP grant. But yeah, you have to just stay with it. And I think just to kind of wrap up what we were talking about earlier, Mario, is that the whole key to this is that you develop those relationships, you talk to find out who the people are in your school, in your district, to start these conversations, develop the relationships. It makes it much easier when you do that ask for money. I'm going to turn it back over to Jen for any final thoughts.
I really appreciate you guys, for everybody attending and being a part of this. As we mentioned, this PowerPoint is going to go out to you. The links are all hyperlinked, so you can go to those sites that we went through. Jay is going to send you the ESSA ebook and the funding template. There'll be some great other resources to help spark some inspiration and where you can look for funding within your community. I think the key to this is that this funding has local, it's allowing school districts to have local control, and so you guys have the power in your hands to go after it. It's actually really attainable. It just takes that first step. Talk to your principal, get their guidance, let them know what you want to do, find that right person, and then please, please, please reach out to us. My email's here, Mario's and Eric's, our Twitter handles. I love Mario's, Mr. Let's Move. And just reach out to us and let us know how we can help make this a huge success for you and any other questions that you may have. At this time, we're going to end the webinar, but we really appreciate, we hope everybody has a wonderful evening.